Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking an in-depth look at some really compelling and frankly quite unsettling insights. These come from a recent investigation by the Urban Herald. Now this isn't just another report about, stolen property.
Right.
It's a deep dive into a fascinating and, well, troubling paradox right at the core of urban safety here in Dublin.
Okay.
We are talking about bike theft, yes, but the real story, the one we're unpacking, is how ordinary citizens, people like you and me, are increasingly achieving what armed police often struggle to do.
Which is?
Recovering their own stolen goods. It's a really compelling examination of, well, systemic failures on one hand and extraordinary community resilience on the other.
Indeed. And as we step into September 2025, Dublin isn't just experiencing a minor problem.
No.
It's grappling with a deepening crisis. It really defines a critical moment for our city, I think. The numbers. They're stark. They reveal a system that's failing its most vulnerable residents.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it showcases the incredible ingenuity, the sheer determination of the very people it's supposed to protect.
Right.
So our mission today really is to unpack the alarming scale of this issue, pinpoint the challenges faced by, the formal channels.
The official routes.
Exactly. And explore the rise of what many are now calling DIY justice right here on Dublin streets.
This is such an important investigation, and you'll find as we get into it that the insights we uncover, they're going to challenge some fundamental assumptions.
About law enforcement.
About law enforcement, absolutely. Yeah. About the power of community and the very fabric of urban trust. Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this.
The alarming scale of Dublin's bike theft epidemic, a crisis deepens.
Okay, let's start by painting a picture, setting the stage. What are the latest Garda statistics actually telling us about Dublin's cycling community? Especially as we enter this back-to-school period, September 2025. It's a time often associated with, fresh starts.
Right, new beginnings.
But it seems it's also a time for fresh targets for thieves.
The figures.
So good.
Look, they're more than just numbers. They're showing a consistent, really alarming trend.
Okay.
New Garda statistics confirm over 25,000 bike thefts reported across Ireland since 2019.
Right, since 2019.
But here's the crucial distinction for you listening. Cycling campaigners estimate the actual number of bikes stolen annually, just in Dublin alone.
Just Dublin?
Yes. Is closer to a staggering 20,000.
20,000. A year.
20,000 bikes disappearing every single year. I mean, this sheer volume firmly places Dublin among Europe's worst affected cities relative to its population anyway.
That's incredible.
And your point about the back-to-school period, absolutely spot on. We've seen a shocking 40% spike in incidents near major campuses.
6%.
Like Trinity College, Dublin, UCD, DCU, you name it. Students often arriving with new, relatively expensive bikes.
Gifts from parents, maybe?
Exactly. They become immediate, very visible targets. And what's truly disheartening, highlighting how persistent this problem is that 44% of theft victims, nearly half, have had their bikes stolen more than once.
More than once. So it's not a one-off.
No. It underscores a relentless, persistent urban crime wave. It's just happening again and again to the same people.
That's an incredible volume of crime, really far beyond what most people might imagine, I think. But this isn't solely about the financial cost of a stolen bike, is it?
Not at all.
Are we seeing this problem shine a light on deeper, maybe more fundamental flaws in Dublin's urban security? Perhaps even beyond just bike theft.
Absolutely. Look, this isn't merely about lost bicycles. It's actually a damning indictment of systemic failures.
Strong words.
Well, they leave citizens to fend for themselves. What's truly striking here for you is the profound paradox at play.
Okay.
An Garda Síochána, our police force, despite being armed, highly trained, they struggle significantly.
With this specific issue.
With property crime like this, yes, resource constraints, procedural limitations, they're tied up. Yet, ordinary citizens, often equipped with nothing more than a smartphone and just sheer determination.
Yeah.
They are successfully recovering their stolen property, sometimes even from areas where law enforcement claims they can't effectively operate.
Why? Due to legal reasons or?
Both. Sometimes it's legal restrictions, sometimes practical hurdles. And this reveals a critical insight, really.
Which is?
Ireland's legal system, designed for a different era, you see. It inadvertently provides a shield for criminals operating from private property.
So the law protects the thief in a way.
In effect, yes, while at the same time, cutting-edge tech empowers individuals to basically bypass the systemic blind spot.
Systemic failures and citizens left to fend for themselves. Those are incredibly strong statements.
They are.
For anyone who might argue, well, the Gardaí are simply overwhelmed, they have bigger fish to fry, how do these official numbers really stack up against the sheer scale of the problem? Does it support such a strong claim?
The numbers, unfortunately, they tell a very, very clear story. It's one of institutional failure and a glaring disconnect between the reality people face on the ground and the official response they get.
So the 20,000 estimate versus?
Exactly. As I mentioned, an estimated 20,000 bicycles stolen annually, that's the estimate. But here's the kicker.
Okay.
Only 4,400 of those thefts are formally reported to Gardaí.
Only 4,400 out of 20,000.
Correct. Think about that for a moment. Nearly 80% of victims don't even bother reporting the crime.
Wow, that says a lot.
It signals a clear, undeniable loss of faith in the system's ability, maybe even its willingness to respond effectively.
Right. People just think, what's the point?
Precisely. And of those few cases that are reported, fewer than 4% are ever recovered and returned to their owners.
Less than 4%.
Less than 4%. And if you're looking for accountability, convictions, the rates hover below 1% of the estimated actual thefts.
Low 1% conviction rate.
Of the estimated total, yes.
What?
These aren't just like bureaucratic shortcomings.
No.
They reflect a system that has, quite frankly, effectively abandoned its citizens to criminal predation. All while, maintaining the fiction that law and order prevails. Imagine the outrage if a health service had an 80% non-reporting rate and a less than 1% success rate.
Unthinkable. The impact on public trust must be immense.
It is. It really is.
That's such a stark picture of lost faith. But okay, beyond the frustration, what are the concrete economic and personal tolls this is taking on everyday Dubliners?
Right.
It has to be more than just the cost of a new bike, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The economic impact is far more significant than many people realize. For you, our listener.
Okay.
The average value of a stolen bicycle in Dublin is about €500.
500 euro.
Yeah, average. And over 10% of stolen bikes are actually worth 1,000 or more. Some are quite expensive.
Right, e-bikes and things.
Exactly. So if you multiply that by the estimated 20,000 annual thefts, the direct annual cost to Dublin residents alone exceeds 10 million.
10 million euro. Just the bikes themselves.
Just the bikes. But that's just the start, really the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, what else?
If we broaden our perspective, we're talking about wider societal costs that aren't immediately visible.
Like?
Well, there's lost productivity from disrupted commutes, right? People can't get to work or school on time or at all.
Think so.
There's an increase in carbon emissions as frustrated victims switch back to cars or maybe rely more on public transport.
Which undermines sustainability goals.
Directly undermines our city's sustainability goals.
Yeah.
And critically, there's the psychological trauma.
Yes.
Losing your primary means of transport, it leads to feelings of violation, deep frustration with authorities, and this pervasive sense of paranoia about urban safety.
You feel less safe in your own city.
Exactly. So the true cost, when you factor all of this in, it's far greater than simple replacement value. It's impacting public health, environmental objectives, and the overall livability of Dublin.
The challenges with formal channels. Understanding Garda limitations.
Okay, so with such a widespread impact, these staggering numbers, the natural question becomes, why are official channels, particularly An Garda Síochána, struggling so significantly? Why can't they make a dent in this problem? Is it a matter of will, or are there deeper sort of structural issues at play here?
Look, the perceived ineffectiveness of the Garda response doesn't necessarily stem from a lack of individual effort from officers on the ground.
Right, not blaming individual Gardaí.
No, not at all. It's more from a complex web of legal, procedural, and crucially resource-based limitations. It's a deeply systemic issue.
Okay.
A major hurdle, as the Urban Herald investigation really uncovered, is Irish law itself.
The law. How so?
It still requires search warrants for entering private property, even when victors have definitive GPS data showing their stolen goods are inside.
Even with GPS proof.
Yes. And here's the rub for you.
Ah.
Judges rarely grant these warrants based solely on GPS data.
Why not?
They cite concerns about accuracy, how precise is it really, and also privacy concerns.
Privacy.
This creates a legal paradox.
Yeah.
That is. Well, it's almost Kafkaesque.
How so?
Victims know exactly where their bike is, often to within a few meters, right? But authorities often can't legally retrieve it. Add to that the time delays in obtaining any warrant, even if they could.
Right, bureaucracy.
Exactly. And thieves have ample opportunity to move the goods or simply dismantle the bike, get rid of the evidence.
So the system protects them.
The critical insight here is that the legal framework, designed for an earlier era, is simply outdated for 21st century digital evidence. It effectively ends up protecting criminals operating from private spaces.
That's a massive legal hurdle, definitely. But what about community policing? That's often talked about as the ideal model for, localized crime like this. Why isn't that proving effective in addressing an issue as pervasive as bike theft in Dublin?
Well, community policing, in theory, it's designed to assign an officer responsibility for a specific area, foster local engagement, build trust.
Right. Know the patch.
Exactly. However, this model has proven largely inadequate against the sophisticated bike theft networks we're seeing in Dublin.
Because they're networks, not just individuals.
Precisely. These aren't just opportunistic individual acts, for the most part. These are often organized groups that operate fluidly across different Garda district boundaries.
So a local officer can't track them easily?
No. It makes a localized reactive community policing approach pretty ineffective. And local officers, we understand, express significant frustration.
About what?
About resource constraints that actively prevent them from conducting proactive operations. They can't get ahead of it. And while the Garda Reform Act of 2025, it included provisions for enhanced community engagement, modernized policing.
Yeah, I remember that.
Its implementation, particularly for property crime prevention, like bike theft, has been noticeably slow.
So it hasn't filtered down yet?
Not really, not in a way that's making a difference here. The core issue for you is that the current model is simply too reactive, too localized, to effectively combat the organized, mobile nature of this crime wave.
Okay, so you have these limitations, and with all the competing demands on Garda time, violent crime, drug trafficking, terrorism.
Serious issues.
Where does bike theft actually land on the Garda's list of operational priorities? I mean, one has to imagine it's not right at the very top.
You're touching on a really crucial internal dynamic there. Senior Garda management faces extremely difficult decisions. They have limited budgets, limited personnel.
Yeah.
Bike theft, despite how prevalent it is, despite its significant impact on citizens, it inevitably competes with these higher priority crimes.
Right.
And consider this for a moment.
Yeah.
Investigating a 500 bike theft.
Yeah.
It often requires a similar amount of investigative resources, officer time, paperwork, follow-up, as investigating a 5,000 car theft.
Really? The same effort?
Often, yes. Or even a serious assault case in terms of file preparation. And from a management perspective, let's be frank. Pursuing bike theft cases offers limited career advancement opportunities or, public recognition compared to solving violent crimes or disrupting major drug networks.
It makes sense, unfortunately.
It creates an institutional bias, really.
Yeah.
And that naturally filters down through the ranks. It influences how individual Gardaí prioritize their daily activities.
So it gets pushed down the list.
It's a rational choice for them, given the constraints they face, but the outcome is perceived inaction and a system that feels unresponsive to a really pervasive problem.
That makes a lot of sense from a resource perspective, however frustrating for victims. But it also suggests a significant gap in, maybe, training and equipment. Are the criminals, in essence, operating a few steps ahead technologically? Is that fair to say?
Precisely. This really highlights the challenges of modern policing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Garda training programs, they've historically emphasized traditional policing methods, foot patrols, interviews.
Right.
These are increasingly inadequate for modern property crime, which often involves a sophisticated digital footprint.
Okay.
Many officers simply lack familiarity with contemporary tools like GPS tracking technology, the nuances of social media investigation techniques.
Like checking Facebook Marketplace or TikTok.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And understanding the digital trails that thieves increasingly leave behind on those platforms. The force also struggles with, aging computer systems.
Still.
Yeah, and limited access to modern investigative software. This creates a significant disadvantage. We've even seen reports, for instance, from Arte illustrating how inadequate driver training and ambiguous pursuit policies.
Pursuit policy.
Yeah, they make it difficult for Gardaí to chase even stolen vehicles.
Yeah.
It's a loophole that young offenders notoriously exploit and even brazenly post about on social media, like TikTok.
They boast about it.
Yes. The critical insight for you here is that this technological and training gap means the force is, in many ways, consistently behind the criminals they're trying to apprehend.
Geographic concentration, targeting patterns, and diverse impact.
Okay, so if the How of bike theft highlights these systemic failures? Let's pivot to the who and where.
Right.
Because understanding precisely who is being targeted and in what specific hotspots, that truly exposes the human face of this crisis, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And maybe highlights the specific vulnerabilities that official channels are missing. So where are bikes disappearing most frequently in Dublin?
The patterns of bike theft in Dublin are actually quite distinct. They reveal a mix of opportunistic crime, but also significantly organized activity.
Okay.
For you, our listener, here's a startling fact. Approximately 75% of all bicycle thefts in the whole of Ireland occur right here in Dublin.
3/4. In Dublin.
Yes. We see significant concentrations in the city center itself, obviously,
Hmm.
and then in specific suburban areas like Tallaght, Ballymun, and parts of the north inner city.
Why those areas specifically?
Well, these locations seem attractive for thieves for a combination of reasons. Often there's a limited visible Garda presence, perhaps. Right.
Large social housing estates with multiple entry and exit points can provide cover, making it easier to disappear.
I see.
And there might be established local markets for selling stolen goods quickly. The geographic concentrations strongly suggest these aren't just random acts.
It points to organization.
Often the work of organized networks that understand the urban landscape, the escape routes, the blind spots. They know it intimately.
That's a surprisingly high concentration within Dublin itself. And what about the timing? We tend to assume crime happens at night, right?
Under cover of darkness.
Yeah. Is this primarily a nocturnal crime, or are thieves operating differently, perhaps with more brazenness?
That's a very common misconception, actually.
Oh.
And the Urban Herald investigation shows the reality is quite different.
How so?
The peak months for theft are actually July through October.
The summer and early autumn.
Exactly. Which coincides with increased cycling activity, obviously, but also longer daylight hours.
Right, so not at night.
Mostly not. Most thefts occur during daytime hours, typically between noon and 9 p.m. Midday to evening. That's peak time.
Yes. It directly challenges the idea that it's primarily a nocturnal crime. Recent incidents near iconic landmarks, think Trinity College's front square,
Right in the center.
Stephen's Green, Temple Bar, Grand Canal Dock, as well as hot spots near the Spire on O'Connell Street around Grafting Street.
Busy, visible areas.
Extremely busy, visible areas. The striking insight here is that thieves are just blending in. They're operating in plain sight during busy periods.
Which says what? They're not scared.
It speaks volumes about their brazenness and maybe the perceived low risk of actually being caught.
It really sounds like this crisis isn't affecting everyone equally then.
No, definitely not.
Which specific groups within Dublin are bearing the brunt of this problem? And why are they particularly vulnerable?
This really raises a critical question about equity, about vulnerability in urban life. The human cost of bike theft extends far beyond just the financial loss, especially for Dublin's most vulnerable populations.
Such as?
International students, for instance, immigrants. They often rely on bicycles as their primary, sometimes their only, affordable mode of transport.
Yeah, cheaper than buses or cars.
Much cheaper.
Yeah.
So for them, losing a bike isn't just an inconvenience or a minor financial hit. It can mean lost job opportunities.
Can't get to work.
Exactly. An inability to attend classes. Deep social isolation, especially with rising public transport costs making alternatives difficult.
It cuts them off.
It really does. Maria Santos, a Brazilian student at Dublin Business School, she shared her experience with the Urban Herald.
What happened to her?
She told them how her bike theft near the Jervis Center meant she just couldn't afford the bus fare for 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, and she almost had to drop out of her studies because of it.
Just from a stolen bike.
Just from a stolen bike. And stories like Maria's are, unfortunately, increasingly common throughout Dublin's diverse communities. It shows the devastating ripple effect these crimes have on those least able to absorb the loss.
That's a truly devastating personal impact. You can see how it spirals. And after a theft like that, what happens to people's relationship with cycling? Does this crisis actually deter people from using bikes?
It does.
Which would, in turn, have broader consequences for the city's environmental goals, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Broadening our perspective again, the impact is significant for urban planning, for public health.
Right.
Research from the Dublin Cycling Campaign clearly shows that a shocking 42% of bike theft victims
42%.
either stop cycling entirely or significantly reduce their activity after a theft.
Wow, that many give up.
Or cut back drastically. This directly contradicts government sustainability targets. It effectively punishes citizens who are actively choosing environmentally responsible transport options.
So it pushes people back into less green transport.
Exactly. It's not just a personal loss, it's a societal setback that harms Dublin's green ambitions. And the psychological impact is profound, too.
We touched on that, the violation.
Feeling violated, deeply frustrated with authorities for the perceived lack of action, and becoming increasingly paranoid about urban safety in general.
Yeah.
The critical takeaway here is that the crisis has these broader societal consequences well beyond the immediate financial loss. It affects public health, environmental goals, and the overall sense of well-being in the city.
We mentioned the back-to-school period earlier, and that really concerning 40% spike in thefts.
Yes, in September.
Can you elaborate a bit more on how students in particular are targeted, and why are they so uniquely vulnerable during this specific time?
It's a highly predictable pattern, unfortunately, and one that thieves ruthlessly exploit.
Okay.
September is indeed a particularly dangerous period for students, with that significant 40% increase in bike theft incidents during just the first month of term.
At the big universities.
At Dublin's 3 major universities, yes. Thieves specifically target student accommodation areas.
Where students live.
Yeah, places like Rathmines, Ranelagh, the Dublin 4 area near UCD. David O'Brien, the security manager at University College Dublin, he summarized it very aptly for the Urban Herald.
What did he say?
He noted, "Every September, we see the same pattern. Students arrive with expensive bikes, their parents bought them, they use basic locks, maybe just a cable lock, and within weeks they're posting on social media about theft."
So the thieves know this pattern.
They know exactly when and where to strike. The vulnerability of students comes from a sort of a confluence of factors.
Like what?
Unfamiliarity with high-risk areas in a new city, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
The common use of inadequate security measures, those easily cut cable locks, are a prime example.
Yeah, useless, really.
Pretty much. Predictable parking patterns near lecture halls or dorms, and often limited financial resources for replacements if the bike is stolen.
Right.
International students, especially, often underestimate the risk. They might come from countries with much lower bike theft rates and just aren't prepared for the Dublin reality.
The rise of DIY justice, when Dubliners take back their property.
Okay, so while official channels seem to be faltering, the true ingenuity of Dublin's communities is really shining through here.
It is remarkable.
From everyday cyclists with simple tracking devices to these highly organized networks of delivery drivers we'll get into, citizens are creating their own solutions. This is the DIY justice we spoke about earlier, and it's a testament to incredible resilience, isn't it?
It really is.
So how are ordinary Dubliners leveraging technology, these readily available tools, to track down their stolen property?
Well, one really compelling detail for you is how the democratization of GPS tracking technology has fundamentally shifted the balance of power.
How so?
It's empowering citizens in unprecedented ways. Apple AirTags, for example. They cost as little as €29.
Pretty cheap.
Yeah, and they've become a primary tool for Dublin cyclists trying to protect their investment.
And they work well.
They do. These small devices can be cunningly hidden inside bike frames, under seats, maybe disguised as reflectors. And they provide real-time location data through Apple's ubiquitous Find My network. The technology's effectiveness really relies on the sheer density of Apple devices in urban areas like Dublin.
Lots of iPhones around.
Exactly. Which allows for location updates often within 10 to 20 meters. Pretty accurate.
That's close enough to spot a bike.
Usually, yes. However, it's worth noting Apple's anti-stalking features.
Ah, yes, the safety feature.
While designed for safety, which is good, they can sometimes alert thieves, who also have iPhones, that an unknown AirTag is following them.
Right, so the thief might find it and remove it?
Potentially, yes, if they're savvy enough.
It's still remarkable how a small, inexpensive device can be so effective. But beyond those consumer-grade AirTags, are there more advanced, maybe more robust options for serious cyclists who want that extra layer of protection?
Yes, absolutely. For those willing to invest a bit more, there are professional bike GPS trackers. Brands like Bike Tracks, PalUnity.
Okay.
These offer significantly enhanced features. They typically cost between €100 to €200.
So a bigger investment.
A higher upfront investment, yes, but they boast recovery rates exceeding 70%.
70%. Compared to
the less than 4% recovery rate for untracked bikes reported to Gardaí, it's a stark contrast.
Huge difference. What do they do differently?
Well, these professional systems provide real-time alerts directly to your phone the moment your bike is tampered with or moved.
Instant notification.
Yes, And they generate evidence-quality location data that is often acceptable in courts, unlike maybe consumer GPS data.
Okay. That's key.
And the rapid response capability these systems offer is crucial. Bikes moved quickly after theft become significantly harder to recover.
Makes sense. Time is critical.
Exactly. And Dublin's relatively compact city center actually works in favor of these quick response times. It makes it possible to recover most tracked bikes within, say, 24 hours if action is taken immediately.
So we have the technology, people are using it, but are they also working together? Are these individual efforts being amplified by collective action? Is there a network effect?
It's particularly striking, yes. Dublin's cycling community has developed really sophisticated informal networks to combat this problem.
Like what?
Well, Instagram accounts like @YourNameYou'reFrom. It regularly features posts of stolen bikes.
Sharing photos and details.
Yeah, leading to community-shared sightings and potential leads.
Yeah.
WhatsApp groups for various Dublin areas.
Mm-hmm.
They facilitate real-time alerts, coordinate searches, even help in recovery operations sometimes.
Wow. Very organized.
Very. And the Brazilian community in Dublin in particular has earned significant recognition for their highly effective recovery efforts.
The Brazilian community specifically?
Yes. There are multiple documented cases of members spotting and returning bikes to their rightful owners. They seem incredibly organized.
Why them, do we know?
We'll get into that more, but community solidarity seems key. As Carlos Mendoza, a member of Dublin's Brazilian cycling group, explained to the Urban Herald, he said, "We have WhatsApp groups for each area. When someone's bike gets stolen, we share photos and everyone looks out. We've recovered more bikes this year than the Gardaí have in our neighborhood."
More than the Gardaí. That's quite a statement.
It is. Their vigilance and coordination are truly remarkable.
Those informal networks sound incredibly powerful. Can you give us some specific, concrete examples, stories of these citizen-led recovery successes that really bring this DIY justice to life?
Certainly. We've seen numerous inspiring cases documented. Sarah Murphy, for example, she's a graphic designer from Ranelagh.
Yep.
She used an AirTag hidden in her seat post to track her stolen 800 hybrid bike all the way out to Talat.
So the AirTag worked.
Perfectly. She then worked with members of a local cycling group out there. They helped her identify the bike outside a house.
Right. Then what?
She then coordinated with community Gardaí for its return, using the location data and the visual confirmation.
So she involved the Gardaí at the end.
Yes. And Sarah explicitly noted, she said, "The cycling community WhatsApp group gave me more help in 24 hours than the official system provided in 3 weeks."
Wow. That says it all.
Another compelling example is John O'Sullivan. He recovered his mountain bike from the city center after spotting it advertised on Facebook Marketplace.
How did he manage that?
His tactic was quite bold. He arranged to test ride it.
No.
Yes, and then simply cycled away on his own bike.
Just took it back.
Yeah.
Amazing.
These stories, though individual, they highlight the incredible effectiveness of citizen initiative, technological empowerment, and these robust community networks when official channels fall short.
Wow, the test ride and cycle away, talk about bold. I mean, I have to imagine there's a fine line between that kind of ingenuity and putting yourself in a genuinely tricky, maybe even dangerous spot.
Oh, absolutely.
Because while these stories are inspiring, there's a dangerous reality to citizen confrontations, isn't there?
A critical question that emerges here is about the personal safety of citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, authorities correctly warn against direct confrontation for very good reason.
Yeah.
The risks are substantial.
Can you give an example?
Josh Stevens' experience, documented by the BBC, perfectly illustrates this. He tracked his bike using GPS, found it, only to find himself alone, facing a masked individual who threatened to stab him if he came closer.
Jeez. That's terrifying.
Absolutely. And in Dublin, we've seen similar incidents reported. Mark Collins, a software developer, tracked his bike to a housing estate in Ballymun.
Okay.
But when he approached, even with 2 friends for safety, they faced aggressive resistance and threats of violence from local residents protecting the thief, essentially.
So it can escalate quickly.
Very quickly. Fiona Riles' test ride tactic, while ultimately successful for her, also came with considerable personal risk. There was no guarantee of how the seller would react.
True.
What's also interesting to note is a potential gender dynamic here. Reports suggest male victims more frequently attempt direct confrontation themselves, whereas female victims often recruit male friends or partners for support or to lead the recovery.
Which reflects what? Societal norms or perceived risk?
Probably both. societal expectations, and the very real physical dangers involved in challenging criminal activity without official backup. The key insight for you is that citizen recovery can, and also does, put individuals directly in harm's way. It creates a profound moral and safety dilemma.
So on one hand, we have these effective citizen recoveries, people getting their property back.
Success stories.
And on the other, these real dangers and, I suppose, legal ambiguities as well.
Yes.
What does this all mean for the legal and ethical landscape? It sounds like a bit of a minefield where good intentions could quickly run into trouble.
Broadening our perspective now to the rule of law. The rise of citizen-led recovery creates immensely complex legal questions that Irish law hasn't really caught up with yet.
Okay.
While taking back your own property isn't technically theft.
Right, it's yours.
Exactly. But the methods employed deception, like a test ride, trespassing on private property to retrieve it, or direct confrontation, might easily violate other laws. Assault, public order offenses.
I see. So you could end up in trouble yourself.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Gardaí place in a really awkward position here. They correctly advise against citizen recovery due to safety and legal concerns. Yet they're often unable to offer effective alternatives that actually lead to property recovery. It's a catch-22.
Yeah.
Furthermore, insurance policies often require formal police reports for claims,
Good point.
which can complicate matters if you recover your property unofficially. Does the claim still stand? And critically, the very success of citizen efforts, while individually positive, it inadvertently undermines confidence in official law enforcement.
How so?
Well, when ordinary people consistently outperform trained, equipped, and armed police officers, it raises fundamental questions about institutional confidence, about resource allocation, and ultimately about the social contract.
Right. Who is responsible for law and order?
Exactly. It creates perverse incentives and erodes public trust in the official systems that are supposed to handle this.
The delivery driver crisis. When work tools become theft targets.
Okay, let's zoom in now on a group for whom a stolen bike is more than just an inconvenience. It's described as a profound catastrophe. I'm talking about Dublin's delivery drivers. The Urban Herald highlighted how they are both particularly vulnerable and incredibly organized in their DIY justice efforts.
This is a truly compelling detail for you, our listener, regarding the extreme vulnerability of this particular group. It's quite shocking.
Tell us about it.
For food delivery workers, from Deliveroo, just eat. Uber Eats a stolen bicycle doesn't represent mere inconvenience.
Really?
It means immediate unemployment, financial ruin, potentially.
Your tool of the trade is gone.
Exactly. Many of these workers are immigrants who have invested their life savings or a significant portion of them in these bikes. It's their sole means of income generation, often, trying to build a new life in Ireland. And they are systematically targeted. Thieves specifically watch for the distinctive thermal bags.
They're branded bags.
The branded clothing, the high-quality bikes often used for efficiency. They watch during peak delivery times, lunch hours, weekend evenings.
They know who to target.
They do. Many drivers lose bikes worth between $800 and $1,500.
That's a lot of money for them.
It represents weeks, maybe even months of earnings that they now have to somehow spend on replacements rather than on rent, food, or supporting their families back home.
Yeah.
It highlights an extreme vulnerability and the truly devastating personal impact of these crimes.
It sounds like pure necessity, then, has forged Dublin's most organized bike recovery network amongst these drivers.
It seems so.
Tell us about what the Urban Herald has called the Delivery Driver Resistance Network. What is that?
This is, indeed, arguably Dublin's most organized and, frankly, most effective bike recovery network. It's a testament to pure necessity driving collective action.
How do they work?
Delivery drivers have created these sophisticated WhatsApp groups that span every single Dublin postal code.
Every postcode.
Wow.
Yes. They share real-time theft alerts, reports of suspicious activity, and they coordinate search efforts with what can only be described as military precision.
Why such precision?
This level of coordination is driven by a deep, shared understanding that collective security directly impacts individual survival. If one driver's bike is stolen, it could be anyone's next.
There, but for the grace of God.
Exactly. As Marcus Silva, a Brazilian Deliveroo driver who has personally helped recover over 20 stolen bikes.
20 bikes.
Yes, he explained it to the Urban Herald. When one of us loses our bike, we all feel it. We look out for each other because the system won't protect us.
A powerful statement.
Their intimate knowledge of the city's streets, combined with their constant mobile presence, they're always out there, makes them uniquely effective.
More effective than police patrols.
Consistently outperforming official law enforcement efforts? Yes, because their network operates continuously, 247 rather than just reactively. And the sad reality is that the delivery platforms themselves—
Deliveroo. Just eat. They offer very little support in these situations, so the drivers are forced to rely entirely on this incredible community solidarity.
And within this network, we see these extraordinary examples of what the article calls Brazilian bravery.
Yes.
It seems to extend beyond just bike recovery. It's almost like a cultural inclination to step up. Is that right?
Yes. The Brazilian community in Dublin has garnered particular recognition, not just for their formidable bike recovery efforts, which are significant, but for truly extraordinary acts of public service that rarely get the media attention they deserve.
Like what?
Well, the most celebrated case, which did get some coverage, involved Caio Benicio,
Ah, I remember that name.
a Deliveroo driver who bravely intervened in that horrific knife attack outside a primary school on Parnell Street.
He tackled the attacker, right?
Yes, potentially preventing further tragedy. This split-second decision to confront an armed individual demonstrates an instinct to protect others, regardless of the personal risk involved.
Incredible courage.
And these interventions, as well as their community-driven bike recovery efforts, they seem to reflect deep cultural values. Collective responsibility, community solidarity.
Looking out for each other.
Exactly. And these values directly translate into their highly effective response networks for Bikes F2. Ana Santos, who coordinates a Brazilian women's cycling safety group, she put it very simply.
What did she say?
We do it because we know what it means to lose your bike when you have nothing else. When the system fails, we don't fail each other.
Wow. Powerful.
And their success rate in recovering stolen bikes, it reportedly exceeds 40%.
40%. Compared to the Garda's 4.
Phenomenal, yes. Especially when compared to the Garda's less than 4% official recovery rate.
So these community efforts, particularly from the delivery drivers and the Brazilian community, are incredibly effective, even heroic at times. Yet you mentioned earlier that Gardaí often discourage them. Why is that? It seems profoundly counterintuitive, almost perverse. Are they worried about liability, or is it something else?
This is truly where the absurd situation, as the article termed it, becomes most pronounced. It's paradoxical.
Yeah.
An Garda Síochána often actively discourages these highly effective community efforts. Officers routinely warn victims against pursuing their own property recovery.
Why? What reasons did they give?
Citing safety concerns, primarily, potential legal complications, and a perceived interference with official investigations.
Investigations which, as we've heard, rarely lead anywhere.
Exactly. Investigations that, as we've discussed, rarely materialize into meaningful action or property recovery for bike theft. So, Garda objections, while understandable from a liability perspective.
You can see their point on safety.
Of course. Public safety risks, potential legal liability if confrontations escalate, procedural complications, maybe even a perceived undermining of police authority. But ultimately, this stance creates an environment where effective citizen action is actively discouraged, while ineffective official alternatives are offered. It's deeply frustrating for victims.
It sounds—
Some individual Gardaí, privately, acknowledge the effectiveness of these community networks. They see it happening.
But they can't officially endorse it.
No. They're bound by institutional culture and legitimate legal concerns that prevent formal cooperation or support. This inadvertently creates an adversarial relationship where community success often just highlights official failure.
This raises a really critical question then. What does it say about institutional priorities, about adaptability, maybe even about institutional ego? When ordinary workers consistently outperform trained law enforcement professionals in their own domain.
The wider implications here are profound for you, our listener. It raises fundamental, critical questions about policing priorities and, maybe, institutional humility.
Humility.
Yes. If ordinary workers armed with smartphones and WhatsApp groups consistently achieve better results than trained, equipped law enforcement professionals, what does that say about current police methods, about training, about resource allocation?
It demands answers.
It really does. The delivery driver community, with their constant street presence, their intimate neighborhood knowledge, they represent an immense, largely untapped resource for urban security and crime prevention.
Their eyes and ears on the street.
Constantly. Instead of viewing citizen efforts as threats to authority or dismissing it as vigilante activity, the Garda could, and arguably should, look for ways to integrate them into valuable community partnerships, provide safety oversight, perhaps legal guidance, work with them.
A collaborative approach.
Exactly. This is a call for institutional humility and a shift away from an adversarial relationship towards genuine partnership. Recognizing that professional law enforcement cannot, and perhaps should not try to, monopolize public safety responsibilities. Community knowledge and motivation are incredibly powerful assets.
The path forward. Systemic reform requirements and best practices.
Okay, so what does this all mean for Dublin going forward? We've diagnosed the problem, looked at the DIY solutions. What kind of systemic changes are genuinely needed to address this crisis effectively and start rebuilding public trust rather than just, patching over the problem?
The path forward. It demands urgent, comprehensive systemic reform. It's not about tinkering around the edges.
Okay, like what? What's first?
Firstly, Ireland needs urgent legislative reform to address 21st century crime patterns.
Updating the laws.
Yes, current warrant requirements designed for an era of physical evidence are simply outdated. Judges need clear guidelines for evaluating digital evidence, including setting reliability thresholds for GPS data.
So they know when they can act on it.
Precisely. A tiered approach could perhaps allow expedited warrants when GPS data is combined with other corroborating evidence. Social media posts showing the bike, witness statements.
Makes sense. Multiple strands of evidence.
Exactly. This would require legislative action, of course, and judicial training. But it's crucial because, as it stands, current laws effectively protect criminals operating from private property. The balance needs to shift, protecting property rights alongside privacy rights.
And what about something seemingly simple, but maybe profoundly impactful, like property marking and registration? You mentioned bike register earlier. Could that be scaled up?
A crucial point emerges when considering prevention. Absolutely. Mandatory implementation of property marking and registration systems is vital.
Mandatory, not voluntary.
Mandatory, yes. Coupled with severe penalties for possession of unmarked high-value bikes. Current voluntary schemes, like Bike Register, they only reach a fraction of Dublin's cycling population.
So they're not effective enough.
Not widespread enough. Making registration mandatory for bikes above a certain value, say 300 or 400 euro, combined with random spot checks by authorities.
Checking frame numbers on the street?
Potentially, yes. It would significantly deter organized theft and dramatically increase recovery rates if a bike is found. It would fundamentally shift the risk-reward calculation for thieves and provide law enforcement with a much, much powerful tool. Stolen bikes would become much harder to resell legitimately.
Dublin is actively pursuing various smart city initiatives. We hear a lot about that. How can that drive to modernize urban infrastructure actually play a tangible role in this fight against bike theft? Can tech help beyond tracking?
It absolutely can, and it must. Dublin smart city initiatives must integrate bicycle theft prevention as a core component, not just an afterthought about traffic flow or energy efficiency.
Yeah.
Well, current CCTV networks often focus on major intersections, but frequently lack sufficient coverage of bike parking areas, the actual hotspot.
Right, where the bikes are.
Exactly. Expanding surveillance specifically to protect cycling infrastructure would significantly enhance deterrence and evidence collection after a theft.
Okay. What else?
Furthermore, IoT sensors, Internet of Things sensors, integrated into bike parking facilities.
Sensors in the bike racks.
Yes, providing real-time monitoring and automated alerts if a lock is tampered with or a bike is removed without authorization. This is seen successfully in cities like Amsterdam and Copenhagen. It's increasingly viable and affordable technology.
So the rack knows if a bike is stolen.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And finally, predictive policing algorithms.
Predictive policing. How does that work?
By analyzing theft patterns, correlating them with weather data, event schedules, times of day, algorithms could help predict high-risk periods and locations.
Allowing proactive deployment.
Precisely. Proactively deploying resources during those high-risk periods, moving from a purely reactive stance to a truly preventive approach. Technology offers significant potential if implemented strategically.
From the Garda perspective itself, beyond legislative tweaks and tech, what kind of resource reallocation and maybe specialized units are needed to tackle what you've rightly described as organized crime?
This leads us to ask about the internal structure and focus within the Gardaí. Management must officially recognize bike theft, not just as petty crime, but often as organized crime.
Acknowledge the scale and organization.
Yes, And that requires a coordinated, intelligence-led response, rather than treating each theft as an isolated incident handled locally.
So, dedicated units.
Establishing dedicated bike theft units, at least in the high-crime divisions like the Dublin metropolitan region, would make sense. It allows officers to specialize.
What would they specialize in?
In theft patterns, fencing operations, recovery techniques, online sales monitoring. Such units could and should coordinate directly with customs officials at Dublin Port.
Why the port?
Because evidence strongly suggests stolen bikes, particularly high-value ones, are exported in shipping containers.
Shipped abroad. Wow.
Yes, the 2019 recovery of 116 stolen bikes worth €250,000 from a container in Newcastle County, Dublin.
I remember reading about that.
It clearly demonstrates what focused enforcement can achieve. But these operations remain sporadic, not systematic. Needs to be routine.
Exactly. Intelligence-led policing, similar to what's used in drug trafficking investigations, is desperately needed. And training, as we discussed, must be overhauled to address modern investigation techniques, social media monitoring, GPS tracking response, digital forensics.
And finally, how do we bridge this glaring gap between the official authorities who seem constrained and these incredibly effective community networks that are already demonstrating success? It seems like a huge opportunity being missed.
Genuine partnership is absolutely key here. It's the cornerstone of any real solution.
How do you foster that?
Well, the existing bike theft working group, which includes Garda representatives, Dublin City Council, cycling organizations, it provides a model. But it needs expansion and, crucially, greater authority to implement real, tangible changes. It can't just be a talking shop.
Give it teeth.
Exactly. Prevention infrastructure also requires massive investment. Dublin City Council's pilot secure bike parking facility on Drury Street. It shows there's a clear demand.
More secure parking needed. Urgently. Scaling these facilities across all transport hubs, universities, major employment centers, that would address a root cause of vulnerability. Secure places to leave your bike.
Makes sense.
Furthermore, community reporting systems need modernization. Victims should be able to easily upload tracking data, photos of their bike, screenshots of suspicious online ads directly into Garda systems.
Streamline the reporting.
Yes, allowing for automated analysis and intelligence gathering. This holistic approach combines institutional reforms with leveraging community efforts to create a truly robust prevention and recovery ecosystem.
Are there international success stories Dublin can specifically learn from to guide this path forward? We're certainly not the only city grappling with this challenge, surely.
Absolutely. Other cities have tackled this, some with notable success. Amsterdam and London offer valuable lessons that Dublin can and really should emulate.
Okay, Amsterdam first. What did they do?
Amsterdam's approach was multi-pronged. They combined massive investment in secure parking infrastructure, just building lots of safe places to park, with aggressive prosecution of possession offenses, making it risky to be caught with a stolen bike, and systematic disruption of fencing networks, the places where stolen bikes are sold.
And the result?
A remarkable 33% reduction in bike theft between 2006 and 2010.
Wow, a third reduction. That's significant.
Very significant. London, meanwhile, uses bait bikes.
Bait bikes, like decoy cars.
Exactly. Bikes equipped with hidden tracking devices left in hotspots. When they're stolen, police can track the thief, identify theft patterns, arrest repeat offenders, and gather intelligence on networks.
Clever. What's the common thread?
What's particularly striking is that both successful approaches were driven by sustained political commitment and funding. And critically, they involved all stakeholders.
Oh.
Police, transport authorities, local government, cycling advocacy groups, all working together towards shared goals. These models highlight the absolute necessity for a coordinated, sustained, multi-stakeholder approach to make a real impact. Can't just be left to the police.
So, after this comprehensive deep dive, this thorough unpacking, what's the overarching message for the path forward for Dublin? What's the ultimate takeaway for our listeners grappling with this?
The path forward, for you, our listener, it demands political courage, first and foremost.
Courage to change things.
Yes, and profound institutional humility, acknowledging that current systems aren't working and being open to new approaches. Plus, sustained commitment from all levels of leadership. This isn't a quick fix.
Oh.
Legislative reform, significant resource reallocation, comprehensive training overhauls, essential infrastructure investment, all require coordinated effort across multiple government departments and stakeholder groups.
It's complex.
It is. But Dublin's own experience demonstrates unequivocally that effective crime prevention requires genuine partnership between official authorities and community networks. This is a call to action for comprehensive, systematic reform. Learning from community success, embracing it, rather than perceiving it as a criticism of professional competence. It's about moving beyond simply acknowledging the problem, which we've done for years, to actually implementing the fundamental changes needed to restore trust and make our city safer for everyone who cycles.
DIY bike theft prevention, Dublin-specific strategies and FAQs.
That's a powerful call to action indeed. Now, for you, our listener, let's get really practical. We've heard the problems, the potential solutions. What can you, as a Dublin cyclist, do right now, today, to protect your bike, using some of the Dublin-specific strategies the Urban Herald has compiled?
Absolutely. Let's get practical. First, let's talk about physical security. This is your first line of defense in Dublin's challenging environment.
Okay. Locks.
We strongly recommend what's called the 3-lock system.
3 locks. Seems like a lot.
It is, but it works. Use a high-quality D-lock for the frame and the rear wheel attached to something solid.
Right. The main lock.
Then a robust chain lock for the front wheel, looping it through the frame as well, if possible.
Okay. Front wheel secured.
And finally, a lighter cable lock just for accessories like your seat or helmet, securing them to the main locks.
Why 3?
It dramatically increases the time and the different types of tools a thief needs. It often deters opportunistic criminals who are just looking for quick, easy targets. They'll move on to an easier bike.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, strategic parking is paramount. Never, ever leave bikes overnight on Dublin streets if you can possibly avoid it.
Indoors is best.
Seek secure indoor parking whenever possible at your workplace, in residential building storage, or use paid secure facilities like the one on Drury Street.
And if you have to park outside?
Choose well-lit, high-foot traffic areas. Look for visible CCTV coverage. Ideally, park near security personnel if available.
Okay. And the lock itself?
Remember, Dublin's weather is harsh on locks. Rust is an issue. Stainless steel D-locks and marine-grade chain locks are best for durability.
Good tip. What to lock to?
Always lock to solid fixed objects, substantial railings, or ideally purpose-built Sheffield stands. Avoid flimsy posts or street signs they can lift the bike over.
Got it. And tracking.
And finally, yes, GPS tracking, technology integration. In today's environment in Dublin, this is almost non-negotiable, especially for bikes of any value.
AirTags again.
Apple AirTags costing as little as €29 can be hidden cunningly within bike frames or disguised. They work well here.
And the professional ones.
For higher value bikes, professional systems like Bike Tracks or POW Unity offer that real-time monitoring, theft alerts, and police-compatible evidence trails. They significantly boost your recovery chances if the worst happens.
That's a comprehensive set of physical defenses. What about specific advice maybe for university students or commuters, given the particular vulnerabilities and hotspots we've discussed for those groups?
Yes, absolutely. For university students at Trinity, UCD, DCU, you should try to utilize on-campus secure bike parking facilities exclusively if they're available and reliable.
Avoid street parking near campus.
Yes. Definitely avoid locking bikes to railings outside popular student venues on Bagot Street, South William Street, or near Temple Bar. These areas experience extremely high theft rates, especially during term time.
Okay. And commuters.
For commuters, maybe using routes like the Grand Canal cycle route or cycling through Phoenix Park. Vary your parking locations and times if you can.
Don't be predictable.
Exactly. Thieves monitor patterns and target bikes that appear regularly in the same spots at the same times. And during the peak theft months, remember, July through October, increase your security measures significantly.
Oh.
Upgrade your lock quality if you haven't already. Consider temporarily removing valuable accessories like lights or GPS mounts when you park, and try to use indoor parking more frequently during this high-risk period if possible.
And how can someone tap into those powerful community networks we've discussed? Not just for recovery after a theft, but maybe for prevention too.
Active community engagement is a real game changer for you. Join Dublin Cycling WhatsApp groups relevant to your area or commute route.
Find them online.
Usually, yes, through cycling forums or social media. They are incredibly effective for sharing real-time theft alerts, warnings about suspicious activity, and coordinating recovery efforts.
Okay. What else?
Also, monitor social media marketplaces like Facebook Marketplace and Done Deal regularly, not just if your bike is stolen, but generally.
Why?
Stolen bikes often appear there very quickly after a theft. Reporting suspicious listings can help disrupt the market.
Good point. Anything else?
Finally, build relationships. Talk to local bike shops, cafes near where you park, security personnel in buildings nearby.
Let them know you parked there.
Yeah. Many of them actively watch for stolen bikes and suspicious individuals. Their local knowledge, their eyes on the street, can be invaluable for both prevention and recovery.
Okay, let's address some frequently asked questions directly, things our listeners might still be wondering about, to cover any lingering concerns. First one, what should I do immediately after my bike is stolen in Dublin?
Right. First, you should report the theft to Gardaí within 24 hours. Even if you anticipate a limited official response, get it on record. You'll likely need a report number for insurance anyway.
Okay, report it. Then what?
Document everything meticulously. Take photos of the exact theft location, any lock damage left behind. Make a note if there's CCTV nearby that might have captured something.
Evidence.
Crucially, post details, photos, description, location, time on Dublin cycling community groups and social media platforms immediately. Speed is key. These community networks often yield faster results than official channels.
Right. And if I have GPS?
If your bike has GPS tracking, begin monitoring its location right away. But, and this is critical, never attempt confrontation alone. Contact Gardaí with the tracking info, coordinate with community groups, but prioritize your safety.
Next question. Which Dublin areas have the highest bike theft rates? Gain touched on this, but maybe a summary.
Sure. Dublin city centre, particularly around Trinity College, Temple Bar, and Stephen's Green, consistently experiences the highest rates. University areas, UCD, DCU, and surrounding student neighborhoods like Rathmines, Ranelagh are also major hotspots. And transport hubs, main bus stations, DIRT stations throughout the city are high risk. And remember, surprisingly, many thefts occur in daylight hours in these busy areas.
Okay. How effective are Apple AirTags, specifically for bike recovery in Dublin? Are they worth getting?
They are very effective for you listening. AirTags provide location accuracy typically within 10-20 meters in Dublin's dense urban environment. That's thanks to the high density of iPhones creating the network. It ensures pretty reliable tracking.
And the success rate?
Anecdotal success rates for AirTag-equipped bikes seem to exceed 60% compared to that dismal 4% for untagged bikes. However, recovery still requires owner action and coordination. Gardaí cannot typically obtain warrants based solely on consumer GPS data like AirTags provide, and you must hide them securely to prevent detection and removal by thieves.
What legal risks do I face if I actually recover my own stolen bike myself? Say I find it locked up somewhere.
It's tricky. Irish law permits reclaiming your own property. It's yours. But the methods used might violate other laws.
Like what?
Trespassing on private property to get it back, using deception to arrange a meeting, or any kind of confrontational approach could lead to charges, assault, public order offenses. You need to be careful.
So what's the advice?
Always document your ownership thoroughly. Photos, receipts, frame number. Consider bringing witnesses or recording interactions if you do attempt recovery, but non-confrontationally is best. Gardaí generally won't prosecute owners recovering their property non-violently, but they cannot officially endorse citizen recovery efforts due to the inherent risks and these legal complexities.
How much should I realistically budget for bike security in Dublin? Is there a rule of thumb?
Security experts often recommend spending about 10-20% of your bike's value on locks and security measures.
10 to 20%.
Yeah. So for a 500 bike, for instance, you should probably invest €50 in a high-quality D-lock, maybe a decent chain lock, and possibly a GPS tracker like an AirTag. This investment significantly reduces your theft risk and dramatically increases your recovery probability. Always adjust based on where and how long you park bikes left overnight on streets. Need maximum security.
Which GPS trackers work best specifically for Dublin cycling conditions? You mentioned AirTags and professional ones.
Right. Apple AirTags offer the best value for basic tracking needs. They're cheap, around €29, and have excellent coverage in Dublin due to the density of iPhones. They're great for most people.
And for more expensive bikes?
Professional systems like Bike Tracks, which might cost €150 plus, maybe a small subscription, offer those valuable real-time alerts, longer battery life, and generate evidence-quality location data that's more likely to be accepted by authorities or courts. Avoid really cheap, no-name GPS trackers you might see online. They often have poor connectivity in dense urban environments like Dublin. Reliability is key.
How can I check if a used bike I'm thinking of buying is stolen? Lots of secondhand bikes for sale.
Good question. Always check the frame number.
Where is that usually?
Often under the bottom bracket where the pedals join. Check that number against online databases like Bike Register, and you can even inquire with the Gardaí if they maintain a stolen bike database accessible to the public.
Okay. What else to look for?
Examine the bike carefully for any signs of forced entry or lock damage scratches near locking points, maybe a damaged ignition on an e-bike. Ideally, meet sellers at their home address rather than a neutral public location. Ask for original purchase documentation or receipts.
And trust your gut.
Absolutely, trust your instincts. If the price seems suspiciously low, if the seller is vague about the bike's history, or if they pressure you to complete the transaction quickly, walk away. It's likely stolen.
And finally, what should Dublin cyclists know about seasonal theft patterns? You mentioned the summer peak.
Yes. Peak theft season runs from July through October. September sees that particular spike, up to 40% increase, in student areas as the universities return. Holiday periods, Christmas, bank holidays, major festival weekends like Paddy's Day also tend to elevate the risk as routines change and there are more crowds. Adjust your security measures seasonally, be extra vigilant, use additional locks, and rely more on indoor storage during these high-risk periods. Outro.
So as we close this deep dive here on the deep dive, the spectacle we discussed,
Yeah.
ordinary Dublin residents successfully recovering their stolen property, sometimes from areas where armed, trained police officers claim they cannot operate. It's more than just an interesting, quirky urban phenomenon. It's a powerful, undeniable demonstration of a fundamental breakdown in institutional competence when it comes to addressing modern property crime.
The statistics are unambiguous. They're stark, really. 20,000 bikes estimated stolen annually in Dublin. Less than 25% of those are even reported to authorities. Fewer than 4% of reported bikes are recovered. And conviction rates hover below 1% of the estimated actual thefts. These figures, they would be considered scandalous in any other public service domain.
Absolutely. Heads would roll.
Yet they've become disturbingly normalized in Dublin's approach to property crime. This represents a dangerous and profound erosion of the social contract between citizens and the state institutions charged with protecting them.
And the contrast is never more stark, perhaps, than right now, September 2025, with students returning to Dublin's universities facing that predictable annual 40% surge in bike theft. While at the same time, community networks, particularly that incredibly effective delivery driver community, mobilize rapidly to protect vulnerable populations themselves.
Right.
The success of civilian recovery efforts, leveraging GPS tracking, social media, sheer community cooperation, it proves the tools and the knowledge exist. What's clearly missing is institutional will, proper resource allocation, and legal frameworks adapted to contemporary criminal methods.
The path forward, it demands political courage, it demands profound institutional humility, as we said, and it requires sustained commitment to fundamental reform. This isn't about cosmetic changes, a few extra patrols here and there. It's about fundamental shifts in how property crime is perceived, how it's prioritized, and how it's resourced within our city's institutions. The critical question remains: will Dublin's political and institutional leadership finally undertake the comprehensive reforms necessary to restore institutional competence and critically rebuild public trust?
Can Dublin move from being, frankly, a European bike theft capital to a model for genuine community police cooperation?
Yeah.
A city where citizens and authorities actually work hand-in-hand effectively.
That's the hope, isn't it?
The ongoing success of civilian recovery efforts provides both a temporary, resourceful solution for those individuals and a permanent, undeniable indictment of official inadequacy for the system as a whole. The challenge lies not in identifying what works, we know what works. Community networks, GPS technology, coordinated prevention, secure parking, but in scaling these proven solutions through proper institutional support and developing an enlightened legal framework that enables, rather than hinders, effective action. For the deep dive, we hope this discussion encourages critical thought and, more importantly, inspires decisive action from you, our listener, in protecting yourself, and from the city's leaders in fixing the system. From all of us here at The Deep Dive, thanks for listening.